Sorry, buddy. It's nothing personal. Hello fans from Wheelchair Gang, Tharries here, and welcome back to what is no doubt going to be a little bit of a controversial opinion amongst you all. But before I tell you it, do me a quick favour, click subscribe. We're trying to get to 10k by the end of the year, and we're not going to get there by you not subscribing. Come on, that's just simple logic. If you don't press the button, my number doesn't rise, and I continue to be sad, and you don't want that, do you? The appropriately nicknamed Time War Daleks have been around basically since Doctor Who came back in 2005, and as a result they've become arguably one of the most iconic and popular designs. However, it's been a long time since these pepper pots have seen a makeover, and today I'm going to be arguing why I think now is a better time than any. Number 1. RTD Era iconography. You'll have no doubt have noticed at this point that the Doctor Who brand as a whole is very much reliant on RTD Era iconography and just things from that era. I've done an entire video dedicated to how they rely on the 10th Doctor in spin-off media, which I'll link in the card, but this extends further than just that, with whole characters and arcs being very similar to what was done in the Davies era. And I believe for an era that, ironically enough, will see the return of the beloved writer, I think it's time that some of these things change. And in my view, nothing epitomises this use of RTD era stuff more than the Time War Daleks. Because fundamentally, despite the fact that the show has tried to incorporate new designs into the show, neither of them have really taken off, and they've quickly scurried back to the old reliable, and the fans have tended to favour this approach. However, it's my belief that if Doctor Who truly wants to progress, then everything else needs to progress alongside it, and that goes for the Daleks as well. Point number 2. They're Time War Daleks. As I alluded to earlier, these Daleks are often referred to by fans as the Time War Daleks, as it's implied narratively that that is when they were introduced, as a new and improved model to basically help the Daleks win over the Time Lords during the Time War. I also always believe that this is why they were always so riveted and bolted and sort of dirty, because they were designed to be war machines, and the reason they were riveted and bolted was because it was quicker to produce on an assembly line. In fact, this is even implied, I believe, in interviews and things like that.
So if they wanted strength, they wouldn't have to make it look as though it's all riveted and bolted together. This is an earthly concept.
Yeah.
I mean, to them, rivets and bolts are old-fashioned.
But out of universe, the events of the Time War are long since a forgotten memory. The first RTD era that introduced that plot thread is about 12 years away from us by now, and in universe, it's implied that the Doctor has become thousands of years older at this point. So it makes very little sense to me that the Daleks would keep on with this old Time War design when they've been known to improve themselves for the scenarios they find themselves in. This is just something that I've been thinking about a lot, and I've been thinking about it ever since I've seen Once Upon a Time, and they're just sort of randomly slotted in next to the brand new Cybermen and Sontarans, and it just did feel a bit weird to me, and I'm not just talking about the bad CGI. And what makes this feel even weirder is things like the Paradigm are implied to be in every way better than the Time War Daleks in terms of their power and efficiency, yet they're just kind of dumped because nobody liked them. In universe, it makes no sense. And I have to be honest, I do have a soft spot for the Paradigm Daleks. Granted, the colour scheme was a bit garish, but ultimately at least they did try and do something new, and progress the evolution in these iconic monsters in what I felt to be quite an organic way. So it just feels really jarring that despite this newer and arguably better model being introduced in terms of their in-universe power, the Daleks always seem to retreat to their previous design. And an argument I've seen in favour of the Time War Daleks staying is that the classic Who Daleks didn't get that many redesigns. And with respect, are we looking at the same classic Doctor Who? There's a ton of different Dalek variants in the classic era. Comparatively, the Daleks in the new series have been really consistent, and I understand why that sounds good to people, but to me I think it's high time we see something new. Another argument I see is that they didn't like the designs they made for either the Moffat or the Chibnall era, and therefore they're worried that if they redesign it again, they might also hate it. But I would argue that there are so many fan artists that have made such great Dalek art that it's more than proven that a new Dalek design could work under a modern context that isn't the Time War one. And I think this just boils down to my last point. It's been 20 years. These Daleks were made to reflect the styles and the attitudes of 2005, and the reality is, we're not in 2005 anymore. Back then, they had to be sort of riveted and bolted and dirty for people to take them seriously. But nowadays, Star Wars is a big thing again. Marvel is a massive thing. Big, metal, shiny robots really aren't that off-putting to people anymore. They're a commonplace of pop culture, and I think leaning into a more elegant design is exactly what the Daleks should do in their next iteration. I know everyone's not going to agree with me on this, because I understand plenty of people love the Time War design, and I do as well. But in my view, I believe they've had their time in the spotlight, and I think it's time to let another bunch of pepper pots have their turn. But let me know what you guys think about this. Would you want to see the Time War Daleks stay? Do you want to see a new design? Would you like to see a regression back to an old design like the Imperials? Comment down below, like if you enjoyed, and I will see you later. Also, quick shout outs to Debs Iona, Simon Ashley, Shane Smith, Patrick Mewson, Bree Kevin, Seb Lowndes, and Jay Monroe. If you want to become a member, feel free to do so. It really helps out. You get exclusive posts, shout outs in every video, and even your own badge and custom emojis to use during live streams.